For centuries, the only evidence we had was scars, circular wounds carved into the skin of sperm whales, some nearly a foot across, ringed with smaller cuts like serrated teeth. Sailors saw them and imagined monsters. Whalers saw them and knew something massive was fighting back in the dark. But no one had ever seen the creature responsible, not alive, not in its world. For all of recorded human history, the giant squid existed only in fragments. A tentacle washed ashore in Iceland, a beak pulled from a whale's stomach, a mangled carcass floating on the surface of the North Atlantic, already half decomposed, already losing its shape. We sent rovers to Mars, we mapped distant galaxies, we split the atom and sequenced the human genome. And still, the giant squid refused to be seen. It wasn't until 2004 that Japanese researchers captured the first photograph of a living adult, more than 900 meters below the surface. And it wasn't until 2012 that a team finally recorded one on video, gliding through the black water of the North Pacific, like something from another planet. This is an animal that was alive before we had cameras, before we had submarines, before we had the technology to even reach the depths where it lives. And yet, it's been down there the whole time, watching, hunting, growing to sizes that still don't seem real. Nothing about the giant squid is normal. The giant squid may be the most mythologized animal on Earth. Norse sailors called it the Kraken, a tentacled sea monster so large it could be mistaken for an island, capable of dragging entire ships into the abyss. The ancient Greeks may have based Scylla, the six-headed sea monster of the Odyssey, on encounters with its arms. Caribbean legends of the Lusca, a half-shark, half-octopus terror that haunted blue holes, likely owe something to its shadow. But here's what surprises me. The giant squid wasn't formally described by science until 1857, when Danish naturalist Japetus Steenstrup examined fragments of one and gave it a name, Architeuthis dux. And for the next 150 years, every attempt to study the living animal failed. Every submersible expedition, every deep-sea camera drop, every baited trap. The marine biologist Richard Ellis once called the giant squid the most elusive image in natural history. By the turn of the 21st century, it was the last major megafauna on Earth that had never been photographed alive. Let's start with what it is, because even the classification is strange. The giant squid, Architeuthis dux, is a cephalopod. That word comes from the Greek for head-foot, and it's accurate. The animal is, quite literally, a head attached to a ring of limbs, with a jet engine for a body. It belongs to the same class as octopuses, cuttlefish, and nautiluses, a lineage of mollusks that split from the rest of the animal kingdom hundreds of millions of years ago, and went in a direction no one expected. They developed the most complex nervous systems of any invertebrate. They evolved eyes that rival vertebrates. They grew 3 hearts, blue blood, and the ability to move by jet propulsion. And the giant squid took all of that and scaled it to a size that defies the imagination. The largest scientifically verified giant squid measured nearly 43 feet in total length. 43 feet! That's longer than a school bus. Most of that length comes from 2 extraordinary feeding tentacles that can extend over 30 feet, lined with hundreds of suckers, ringed with sharp serrated chitin. The mantle, the main body, stretches about 6.5 feet. The 8 arms add more, and the whole animal can weigh up to 900 pounds. For decades, scientists debated how many species of giant squid existed. Some argued there were at least 3, one in the Atlantic, one in the Southern Ocean, one in the Pacific. But in 2013, a team at the University of Copenhagen analyzed DNA from giant squid specimens collected across the globe and made a startling finding. No matter where they were found, the animals were so genetically similar that they represent a single species. One species, Architeuthis dux, distributed across every ocean on Earth. A single global population, connected across thousands of miles of deep water, in ways we still don't understand. But here's the part that keeps biologists up at night. We've barely seen any of them. Most of what we know about the giant squid comes from dead or dying specimens, animals that washed ashore, animals pulled from fishing nets, animals found in the stomachs of sperm whales. The living animal, in its natural habitat, remains one of the least observed large creatures on Earth. We have more footage of the surface of the moon than we have of a healthy giant squid doing what it does in the deep ocean. Now, let's talk about the body. Because the engineering inside a giant squid makes almost no biological sense until you realize what it was built to do. Start with the hearts. A giant squid has 3 of them. Not 1, 3. 2 smaller branchial hearts sit at the base of the gills, pumping blood through those respiratory organs to absorb oxygen from the seawater. Once oxygenated, the blood flows to the 3rd heart, the systemic heart, which pumps it to every organ, every muscle, every tentacle in the body. It's a double pump system. Blood gets pressurized twice on a single circuit, ensuring that oxygen delivery never falters, even during the explosive bursts of jet propulsion the squid relies on to hunt and escape. And the blood itself is blue. Like lobsters, giant squid use hemocyanin, a copper-based protein, instead of the iron-based hemoglobin that runs through our veins. When oxygen binds to the copper atoms in hemocyanin, the blood turns a deep, vivid blue. This isn't cosmetic. In the cold, low-oxygen depths where the giant squid lives, hemocyanin is more efficient at binding and transporting oxygen than hemoglobin would be. It's a different solution to the same problem, one written in copper instead of iron. But hemocyanin has a disadvantage. It doesn't carry oxygen as efficiently at higher pressures, which is why the squid needs 3 hearts pumping at extraordinary force. The systemic heart alone generates blood pressures over 5 times higher than a human heart. The entire cardiovascular system is overclocked, running at the red line, just to keep the animal alive and moving in a world where oxygen is scarce and every calorie counts. Now look at the brain. The giant squid's brain is small relative to its body. A 500-kilogram animal might carry a brain weighing less than 100 grams. But don't let that fool you. The brain is enclosed in a cartilaginous cranium, a structure unique among invertebrates, almost like a primitive skull. It's shaped like a donut, wrapping around the esophagus, which means every time the squid swallows food, it passes directly through the center of its brain. If the squid eats something too large, it risks damaging its own nervous system. So the beak, that massive parrot-like structure at the center of its arms, doesn't just kill prey. It shreds it into pieces small enough to pass safely through the brain. Up to 80% of the brain is devoted to processing visual information. And that brings us to the most striking feature of the entire animal, the eyes. The giant squid has the largest eyes of any known animal. Not the largest relative to body size, the largest period. Up to 27 centimeters in diameter, roughly the size of a basketball, with a pupil 9 centimeters wide. These are eyes the size of a human head, mounted on an animal that lives in near total darkness. For years, scientists couldn't explain why the eyes were so disproportionately large. Other deep-sea animals of similar size, like swordfish, have eyes 1/3 the diameter, 27 times smaller in volume. The giant squid's eyes seemed like evolutionary overkill. Why burn that much energy growing and maintaining organs that large? Then, researchers at Lund University and Duke University figured it out. The eyes aren't for hunting, they aren't for finding mates. They're for detecting sperm whales. Here's the problem the giant squid faces. Its primary predator is the sperm whale, a 50-ton mammal that hunts in total darkness using echolocation, firing sonar clicks at 230 decibels to build 3-dimensional acoustic maps of the deep. The squid can't hear those clicks. Its statocysts, the organs it uses to sense motion and orientation, only register low-frequency vibrations, well below the frequency of whale sonar. The squid is acoustically deaf to the thing trying to kill it. But it can see it, not the whale itself. What the squid detects is the bioluminescence that the whale leaves in its wake. When a sperm whale moves through deep water, its massive body displaces plankton and other tiny organisms that produce light when disturbed. the whale creates a faint glowing trail, a luminescent shadow moving through the darkness. And the giant squid's enormous eyes can detect that glow from over 120 meters away, the length of an American football field. Just far enough, perhaps, to mount an escape. Those basketball-sized eyes are a sperm whale early warning system. They evolved not to see prey, but to see death coming. The giant squid's feeding tentacles are unlike anything else in the ocean. 2 of its 10 limbs are dramatically longer than the rest, stretching over 30 feet and tipped with widened clubs covered in suckers. Each sucker is lined with a ring of serrated chitin, hard and sharp enough to leave permanent scars on the skin of sperm whales. The tentacles are kept coiled and concealed during normal movement, hidden within the ring of shorter arms. But when prey is detected, they fire outward with extraordinary speed, like a pair of biological harpoons, slamming into the target and locking on with hundreds of toothed suckers. Once latched, the tentacles retract, pulling the prey toward the 8 shorter arms that hold it in place. The arms funnel the struggling animal toward the beak, a structure made of chitin and protein that is one of the hardest biological materials known. It can slice through fish, crustaceans, and other squid with surgical precision. And because everything must pass through that donut-shaped brain, the beak does the critical work of reducing prey to manageable fragments before it's swallowed. The giant squid hunts deep-sea fish, orange ruffy, hoki, and other species living at depths between 300 and 1,000 meters. It also eats other squid, not its own species as far as we know, but smaller deep-water cephalopods. Despite its size, the giant squid is likely a solitary ambush predator. No 2 have ever been caught in the same net. No aggregations have ever been recorded. It appears to hunt alone, in the dark, relying on enormous eyes and explosive tentacle strikes to catch prey it may only encounter every few hours or days. And then there's how it moves. Giant squid, like all squid, are jet-propelled. They draw water into the mantle cavity through an opening near the head, then contract the powerful muscles of the mantle wall, forcing the water out through a funnel called a siphon. The direction of the siphon can be adjusted, allowing the squid to steer, reverse, and accelerate with remarkable control. It's the same principle as a rocket engine: intake, compression, expulsion, but biological. This jet propulsion system is energetically expensive, which is one reason squid need 3 hearts and high-pressure blood to sustain it. But it allows bursts of speed that few deep-sea predators can match. In the footage captured in 2012, the giant squid was seen lunging at a bait line with startling aggression, its body flashing through the frame before retreating into the darkness. The giant squid also maintains buoyancy using an unusual chemical trick. Its body tissues contain high concentrations of ammonium chloride, a compound lighter than seawater. These pockets of ammonia solution replace the heavy metallic ions normally found in ocean water, giving the squid a slight upward lift that reduces the energy needed to hold its position in the water column. The ammonia doesn't change volume with pressure like a gas-filled swim bladder would, which means it works at any depth. It's elegant, but it has a side effect. It makes the flesh of a giant squid taste terrible, bitter, acrid, nearly inedible, which may explain why, despite their enormous size, giant squid have never been targeted as a food source by humans. The reproductive biology of the giant squid is, even by cephalopod standards, bizarre. Males are smaller than females, significantly so, and they possess a muscular penis up to a meter long, one of the longest relative to body size in the animal kingdom. The penis acts as a hydraulic injector, driving packets of sperm called spermatophores deep into the female's tissue. Not into a reproductive tract, into her skin, into her arms. Cords of sperm have been found radiating from puncture wounds on recovered female specimens, embedded in the flesh like biological shrapnel. The giant squid lacks a hectocaudalis, the modified arm that most other male squid use to transfer sperm to females. Without this structure, the male must rely on direct, forceful injection. How the female later accesses this stored sperm to fertilize her eggs remains unknown. Scientists have found females carrying thousands of eggs, but the mechanics of fertilization in the deep ocean have never been observed. Like almost everything else about this animal, the answer is hidden 1,000 meters below the surface, in a world we can barely reach. What we do know is that giant squid grow fast and die young. Current estimates suggest they reach full adult size in roughly 3 years. 3 years to go from a tiny, translucent larva to a 43-foot predator with eyes the size of a human head. That growth rate is staggering, rivaling some of the fastest growing vertebrates on Earth. And their total lifespan may be only 5 years, maybe less. A creature this massive, this complex, this perfectly engineered for the deep, alive for less time than a golden retriever. Gravity shapes everything about them. They don't have the luxury of slow development. They can't afford to be cautious growers. Every calorie goes into size, because size is survival. A bigger squid can hunt larger prey, escape more predators, and produce more offspring. The deep ocean rewards growth the way the surface rewards speed. And the giant squid has taken that logic to its absolute extreme.
And then there's the war, the one we've never seen. Somewhere in the deep ocean, right now, a sperm whale is hunting a giant squid. We know this because the evidence is carved into both animals. Sperm whales surface with circular sucker scars raked across their heads. Giant squid beaks are found in whale stomachs by the hundreds. The largest beaks suggest squid even bigger than any we've measured. Animals that may have never washed ashore and never been caught in a net. The sperm whale hunts by echolocation, descending to 3,000 meters, slowing its heart to 10 beats per minute, collapsing its lungs, and firing clicks at 230 decibels, the loudest biological sound on Earth. The squid can't hear any of it. Its only defense is those enormous eyes, scanning the darkness for the faint bioluminescent wake of an approaching predator. If it detects the whale early enough, it flees. If it doesn't, the whale closes in and the fight begins. These battles take place in total darkness, under pressures that would crush a submarine, between two of the most extreme animals evolution has ever produced. And we have never witnessed one, not once. Everything we know about this confrontation comes from the scars left behind. The sucker marks on whale skin, the beaks in whale bellies, the tentacle fragments found tangled in whale mouths. These are the fossils of a war fought in a place no human has ever stood. Some scientists believe the arms race between sperm whales and giant squid has been going on for tens of millions of years, each driving the other to greater extremes. The whale evolving deeper dives, louder sonar, a larger head to house its acoustic weaponry. The squid evolving larger eyes, faster tentacles, bigger bodies. Two predators locked in a spiral of escalation in the most hostile environment on Earth. Here's what I keep coming back to. The giant squid is an animal with 3 hearts, blue blood, the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, a brain shaped like a donut that wraps around its own throat, tentacles that fire like harpoons and leave permanent scars on 50-ton whales, and a body filled with ammonia that makes it float and taste terrible at the same time. It grows to 43 feet in 3 years and dies before it turns 5. It reproduces by injecting sperm directly into the female's flesh with a meter-long hydraulic penis. It hunts alone, in total darkness, 1,000 meters below the surface. And it evolved basketball-sized eyes, not to find food, but to detect the faint glow of the creature trying to eat it. We didn't photograph one alive until 2004. We didn't film one in the wild until 2012. And even now, with satellites orbiting the planet and AI scanning the internet, we cannot reliably find, follow, or study this animal in its own world. The ocean covers 70% of Earth's surface. More than 80% of it remains unexplored. And somewhere in that black, pressurized void, the giant squid is doing what it has done for millions of years: growing, hunting, fighting, and refusing to be known. We've told stories about it for 1,000 years, called it the Kraken, put it in novels, in movies, in nightmares. And after all of that, we still know almost nothing about how it actually lives. What we know comes from corpses and fragments and the scars it leaves on the bodies of whales. The giant squid isn't hiding from us. It simply lives in a place we haven't earned the right to enter. And every time we do manage a glimpse, a photograph, a few seconds of video, a tentacle pulled from the deep, we're reminded that the most alien world we'll ever encounter isn't in space. It's right here, beneath us, in the dark.